Hello, everyone, and welcome to Madden and Benz Unfiltered today, courtesy of Mike's Beer Bar on the North Shore. Meet me at Mike's. Tim Benz, Mark Madden with you. Mark will be here 2 to 6, Monday through Friday on 105.9 The X. Mike's is always open for you. All of your favorite Pittsburgh sporting events can be seen there. Check them out at the base of the Clemente Bridge across from PNC Park. 80 rotating taps. They've got over 500 available craft beers. Get yourself a steak on a stone and meet me at Mike's. We got a lot to talk about. And Mark, why don't we start where we left off on the podcast for today, which is up. The Mad Monday podcast can be seen and clicked on and listened to at Trib Live. By the time you and I were speaking yesterday, we did not have the final score of the Baltimore game yet. They lose to New England 28-24. Lamar Jackson gets hurt along the way. They barely used Derrick Henry for some reason in the fourth quarter. And now the prospect exists that if the Steelers take the field against Cleveland, they'll already have the division wrapped up if Baltimore loses on Saturday to Green Bay, if you can believe that.
Yeah, which could very easily happen. I don't know if it's a tribute to how well the Steelers have played, how many calls they've gotten from the refs, or how disappointing Baltimore's been. I still think Baltimore has an outstanding roster. I think their coach is very Tomlin-esque, and I don't mean that in a good way. I think he's outdated. I think, as in the case of not using Derrick Henry for most of the second half, not giving him the ball, I think he trusts the element of surprise over using his best players to their fullest. So it's been a weird season for the Steelers, and that ties in nicely with it being one of the weirdest games I've ever witnessed yesterday in the win.
Yeah, I'll get back to the game in a second. I want to pick up on this sort of forecasting into the future thing for a moment, because you and I won't speak again on this format until obviously after the weekend. So we'll know by the time the Steelers take the field if that game means something against Cleveland. And if it doesn't, if they've got the division wrapped up, the only thing they might be playing for then at that point, Mark, is playoff positioning. And it would basically be between the 3 and 4 seed. Is that worth it to you? Does it matter if they have the division wrapped up, if they're the 3 or the 4 seed, that they play or avoid any of the potential teams that they could play or avoid?
What matters is to avoid Buffalo. But the problem with jockeying for the 3rd and 4th seed is, Buffalo, Jacksonville, and Houston are all jockeying for seeds 5 through 7. So I just think you rest your guys every game. You rest all of them for the Baltimore finale if you've clinched by then. You rest guys who were hurt against Cleveland, but still pretty much just go out there and play that game like you play that game. But again, the jockeying below the Steelers has to make jockeying, for the 3rd seed kind of meaningless, kind of. With offering no guarantees is a better way to put it.
I tend to agree.
What if you got the 3rd seed and Buffalo got the 6th seed?
Yes, you could play yourself into playing Buffalo if that's what your point is. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, so I just wouldn't worry about it.
I think they've been in this position a couple times in the Tomlin era. They certainly were once or twice in the Cowher era, where it wasn't going to be clinching the number 1 overall seed. They were going to be a division champion. You just didn't know who among the wild cards you would be playing. That's where they are now. I still look at every team that's on this list of potential wild card foes, which would be if the Steelers do end up clinching by way of Baltimore losing to Green Bay, the 3 AFC South teams, which are Jacksonville, Houston, and Indy, LA, and Buffalo. And I really do think, Mark, the only team that I would look at and say they probably win against at Acrisure Stadium in a playoff game is Indy. What do you think?
I think they could beat Jacksonville or the LA Chargers.
Would you pick them to do it, though?
No. That's a game I just wouldn't bet. And by the way, for you gamblers out there, very often the shrewdest move you can make is to not bet. There's no way they'd beat Buffalo. That's the one they don't want to play. Anything else, they could win.
What about Watt? What does this do for you?
Actually, by the way, I didn't mention Houston. Houston's defense would break them in 2.
I would try to avoid Houston if it became clear enough of a path as to how to possibly do that.
But that's the point. This thing is just so jumbled. Above the line and below the line, there's no point in jockeying.
Well, especially because 3 of the teams are in the same division, so they're all going up and down with each other. It's not even a straight line of avoiding Buffalo from the East, the Chargers from the West. You've got the 3 AFC South teams that are all playing each other largely between now and then.
I'd love to play Indy. I just don't think they're going to make it.
No, and that might come into focus as of tonight, too. We'll see about that with Old Man Rivers playing on Monday Night Football, which is pretty much the only thing that makes Monday Night Football interesting. You can't go to Mike's for Monday Night Flight Night. Get yourself a flight and watch Phillip Rivers and see how he does. But let's get back to the game itself, Mark, from yesterday. And you talked about the officiating. Did you have a problem with the officiating and how it broke out in favor of the Steelers?
No, I thought they made the right calls. My point with this game, as with the Baltimore game, how often do all the calls go your way? The Steelers got the one call that was bad in their favorite Baltimore, the roughing the snapper call. But I thought the refs got all the calls right yesterday. I thought it was hilarious when they trolled the Detroit fans saying the call on the field is a touchdown. However, and the Detroit fans like, oh, come on.
Shun of that call. No, I was laughing at that too, because I was trying to figure out how the official was going to say it. It became crystallized in the long moments that we had waiting for a decision that it was probably going to be that. You could tell the Steelers got the indication of what it was going to be. It was going to be OPI.
Like you said on the podcast, though, they had St. Brown's forward progress stop for a considerable time before you.
Oh, my God. Yeah. Well, that's part of the problem, Mark, is that these refs are so paralyzed to ever blow a whistle, they forget to do it. Like they
figure if they get it wrong, they'll work it out in replay, so they're hesitant to make any call.
Literally, the first time I heard a whistle blow, Jared Goff was midair. If you go back and watch it, if somebody can tell me where they hear a whistle before Jared Goff leaps into the air, show me. I can't find it.
It was just a weird game. It was very immaculate receptionist. Immaculate reception-esque. There you go.
There you go.
In that, Detroit got the winning touchdown taken away twice on the last drive, but I thought both calls were correct.
What do you think will happen? What do you think should happen with Metcalf? Because at least if you listen to Chad Johnson, it went the way we talked about in the podcast. He's claiming that the guy said nasty things that were racially insensitive and about his mother.
How did Chad Johnson know that?
I think he claimed later in the podcast that he had texted with DK.
Yeah, okay, it doesn't matter. He assaulted a fan. It doesn't matter what the fan said. He's a fan. Okay, he paid to get in. He shouldn't say that, but it doesn't justify assault. Metcalf should be suspended for the rest of the season, including playoffs.
If he wanted to do something to the fan, stay far away from him, and if he's shouting those things, point at him, and he'll be ejected because now you've got a whole part of that section that can hear him shouting. You just let him say it right in your ear to piss you off because you went over there in the first place.
Well, when I say what should happen, that won't be what does happen. He's going to get one game, and I don't think he even would have got the one game, Tim, if it would be a game that affects the Steelers. The NFL doesn't like to suspend guys in a situation where it affects competitive outcome. So I think he's going to get one game. That'll be it. But, here's my bigger picture, Tim, which the Steelers never look at. Between DK Metcalf punching a fan and Y.A. Black flipping off the line sideline, what does it say about Mike Tomlin and the lack of accountability on this team?
Well, I thought was it Graziano from ESPN who pointed it out when Tomlin said, I don't know, I didn't see it, I just heard about it. I mean, that's like the TJ Watt thing. I don't know where he is. I don't know if he's in the building or not. I mean, you can't deny everything all the time. Enough with that.
Sure he can, because there's no accountability for him either.
Coming from the owner, you mean?
They're coming from anybody, but the owner's the one, I guess, who counts the most. Nobody, the media, nobody holds Tomlin accountable.
I heard and have seen a lot of people on the whole non-losing season thing today, Mark, which, yes, in and of itself is definitely an impressive accomplishment. But when it's used as a way to weaponize against criticism for why the Steelers haven't won a playoff game for 8 years in the manner that it is, that's why I don't have a lot of reason to celebrate or applaud it.
All you rubes out there, if you want to take the bar and set it so low that you're damaging the credibility of a franchise that has won 6 Super Bowls, you just go ahead and do that. I'm tired of arguing against it. But that's what you're doing. When a streak like that matters, you're dissipating what the franchise had come to stand for regarding a pursuit of excellence for many years. And might I just say, by way of PS, that's Ben's streak. That's not Tomlin's streak.
Do you think that they're playing well enough that they can or should win against any of those teams we just talked about in the playoffs?
Should, absolutely not. Can, absolutely.
I think they can beat Jacksonville. I think they should actually beat Indy if they should somehow get in.
They're not going to play Indy.
I don't think they'd beat Houston. I don't think they'd beat the Bills. I think it'd be a coin flip against the Chargers.
Let me cut to the chase, Tim. If they don't win a playoff game, the season is a giant, useless bag of excrement. There is no middle ground here. You win a playoff game or you don't. Honestly, given the great pains they took with adding all these old veterans and making the future really bleak, even though nobody wants to address it right now, really, anything less than making the AFC Championship game should be unacceptable.
About the game itself, I'm stunned they did what they did in the run game differential. I can't believe they outrushed the Lions to the tune that they did. And I'm saying that on both sides of the ball. I don't know what surprises me more, that they got 230 or they gave up only 15.
I thought Campbell pulled a Tomlin and gave up on the running game way too quick.
Because he was not getting anything done with Gibbs. I would have used Montgomery more if he was frustrated with how things were going with Gibbs. Eventually, he would have cracked through.
I think when your running game has been that dominant all year and you dump out of it as quickly as they did, you're doing your chances a disservice.
What about him missing out on the opportunity to take 3 points early and going for it on the first goal line stand?
See, I respect Campbell for that for one reason. He does it all the time. Okay, the only way the odds go in your favor is if you go for it on inside 4th and 3, a certain length down the field, out of your defensive zone, defensive end, if you do it all the time. So I respect that.
I thought they should go for it there personally. I thought they just should take the points, especially with the possession, the way it was going in this game. You could tell it was going to be a heavy possession game. I mean, we're talking about, Mark, they had 23 plays that ended up without a score between those two goal line stands. 23 snaps of the football that ended up without a score. And I think it was something like, between the two possessions, 12 snaps that were in the 15 and in from Detroit that they didn't score on.
That's just great defense, Tim. Who needs TJ Watt?
Well, what do you think they should do with him now, given what we just talked about?
Well, I think they should try to avoid stabbing him in the other lung.
Probably a good call.
I mean, I don't know. I mean, you got to put him back in there when he's available. I would not play him against Cleveland, that's for sure. See, Jerry Dulac says he's going to be back. I've heard he's not, but whatever.
They might have the flexibility to not have to worry about playing him. And then aside from the whole collapsed lung thing, yes, he'll be fresh going into the playoffs, and that could help. But, he's played well in individually, at least in individual halves. He's had, Kansas City, he was great. For instance, he's had his moments in the playoffs by himself, but it hasn't been enough to make a difference.
Well, I mean, every playoff is a separate occurrence. I will say I thought the modern-day warrior, Jack Sawyer, played very well yesterday.
He had 2 great plays on the first goal line stand where he tackled Gibbs in the backfield, and then at the 3-yard line. Highsmith did a lot of good yesterday, too. So, yeah, those guys held up as best could be expected.
I give Highsmith a lot of credit. Once Daddy got off Twitter and shut up, he's been a much better player.
The other thing that was interesting to note was it took a while for St. Brown to do much of anything. It was actually the 3rd and 4th wide receivers that were hurting the Steelers. They did a decent enough job on Williams and St. Brown. It was the 3rd and 4th wide receivers that were hurting them.
Yeah, but St. Brown got going. Boy, is he a class receiver. Yeah,
he can do a lot. I mean, he can do a lot of things from a lot of different places.
He actually reminds me a lot of AB.
He's a little stronger than AB. I mean,
without the domestic abuse.
Well, I'm a little worried that DK Metcalf is going to start to look like AB and George Pickens and everybody else now.
Well, here's one thing, people. Here's the 2 things out of yesterday's game people don't want to say. That they don't need TJ. Okay, he's had a mediocre season last year, and they obviously should not have given him that extension. And DK's a bust. He takes OPI all the time. He punched a fan. His stats are crap. He's a bust. He's a waste of money.
Mark, let's get to the Penguins. The streak has ended. They've won, finally, for the first time after 8 defeats. They did so in a shootout, which is equally as amazing. And then Sidney Crosby passes Mario Lemieux. Good piece today, if you haven't seen it yet, from Seth Rorba up at Trib Live, chronicling the history of scoring and setting the records, how Sid got there, how Mario got there. Real interesting, great old video if you want to see it as well up at Trib Live. What'd you think of how it happened, and what are sort of your big picture thoughts on Sid getting to this record?
Well, I mean, as Sid himself points out all the time, Mario did it in a lot less games. But by passing Mario in career points and being the most consistent hockey player of all time, and there's no doubt about that. He's the most consistent hockey player of all time, into age 38, still over a point per game. And I think this cements him even further as a top 5 player of all time. I can't believe anybody would even argue it at this point.
They won in a shootout. That might be the more impressive thing of the whole night.
Well, I mean, Shilov's opened his legs like a $2 hooker on every shot, but they hit him in the pads twice. You still got to sub that guy out for shootouts, but they're just not going to.
They did blow another third period lead again.
Oh, they blew 2 leads, Tim. They were ahead twice and blew it.
Yeah, well, the lead in the third period thing, it's like, I guess I wanted to look at it from the other perspective. What would it be like if they could just chase a game in the third? And then I got my answer to that when they lost 4-0 twice. So that didn't help either.
How about they got shut out twice on the dad's trip? Have a safe trip home, dads. we
Yes.
we never loved you.
Well,
They're just not a very good team. And amazingly, after that 8-game losing streak, they're still only 2 points out of a playoff berth, which is just comical. But yeah, I'm glad Sid broke the record, obviously, and I'm glad he did it in a win, because had they not won, it would have been severely diminished for him. But regarding the third period Blues, Tim, they didn't go away yesterday by any means. They got outplayed badly in the third period, and even more so in the shootout.
any thoughts on the Pirates trade that they made?
I mean, yeah, I talked about it a lot on my show. I mean, if it's all they do, it's meaningless. And if they trade him at the deadline because he's a rental, it's meaningless.
I saw, one of the Pirate fan blogs post the following. It said, what do you think of this lineup? And it had the password in left field. It had Cruz in center, Reynolds in right, Horwitz at first, Lau at second, Gonzalez at third. Who am I skipping over at shortstop? Whoever they put over at shortstop. I don't remember how they.
Well, Connor Griffin.
Connor Griffin, that's right, because they put Griffin in as the opening day starter. And then whatever they put Davis as catcher, and then Skeens on the mound. So what do you think of that opening day lineup? And my thoughts are, it looks like 75 wins.
Yeah,
75 to 80 wins.
That exact figure, Tim. 75 wins. They, as I said on the podcast last night, if you want to convince me you're serious, Eugenio Suarez is not going to be in great demand because he's a little older, fading a bit. But he did have 49 home runs last year, only hit 225, but hit 49 home runs. Go overpay for him. What would it be, $25 million a year? Go get him, but they won't.
All right, let's get to some comments here.
Or they could get former Liverpool striker Luis Suarez.
Let's get to Calvin.
I like that.
Did we really gain anything by getting rid of Pickens? DK has the same type of problems, and he's a lesser wide receiver.
That's true. I never thought that would be true, but it's 1,000% true. I'd rather have Pickens and his problems and his ability than, Pickens and his problems and ability than DK. That said, would Pickens be used here like in Dallas? Probably not.
Yeah, I don't think that DK causes the in-house problems that Metcalf does. This is the first time we've seen.
Yeah, but I don't even think Pickens would be nutso enough to punch a fan.
He did yap at fans the one time, but he didn't go after them.
Tim, you cross a line gratuitously when you punch a fan. And I had somebody on Twitter say, well, you're just saying that to instigate that he should be suspended for the year. He should be suspended for the year. He punched a fan. And let me tell you, if an opposing player would have punched somebody at Acrisure, y'all would want him imprisoned. Because y'all, sure enough, wouldn't have the guts to fight him.
Alex says, is resting Rodgers a given if Green Bay wins? I bet you they rest him one of the games. I don't know if they rest him for both. I don't know if they want 14 days off for the offense when it's just getting in gear.
If Green Bay beats Baltimore, I would think Rodgers plays the first half of Cleveland, and that's it.
Maybe not like the first half of both games, maybe?
I wouldn't take that risk.
Okay, Derek says, looks it's great that they won, but just feels like fool's gold. And last night, what it did was it fueled the extend Tomlin mob, even though these types of games we win every year, which are non-playoff games.
I thought he was talking about the Penguins at first.
Yes.
And by the way, read my column that should be going up any moment. The Trib, it talks about how the 9-4-2 start was the worst thing that could have happened to the Penguins because it is fool's gold, and how youth is not being served as a result. As far as the extend Tomlin crowd goes, they're going to extend Tomlin. I mean, what don't we get about him never getting fired?
What don't we get about it?
Yeah.
There are some people who still think that the owner is in charge of his own team.
There's no chance of him ever getting fired. I'm tired of talking about it. I'm also tired of acting like he's a good coach when he's not.
They are so entrenched in their own stance on this that it's become all-encompassing. It's eating them up inside.
It ain't a black thing. It's just the way daddy and granddaddy did things.
Chargers are far superior, says Sports Sharp 412. Chargers are far superior to Buffalo. Much more complete team despite Herbert having only one hand.
Yeah, here's the thing, bruv. When you play the Bills, you got to beat Superman. And I'd rather play L.A.
I'd rather play L.A. too because, we saw what happened with the weather conditions for Miami. Let's see what the weather conditions are like for the Chargers. I think it's a lot easier to prepare for the running combo of Herbert and Vidal or Hampton than it is Cook or Josh Allen.
But by the way, Tim, and to repeat a joke from the podcast, I laughed at a lot of fans out there. Pirate fans are mad because the Pirates didn't get the Japanese guy. Pittsburgh can't even keep the comma open. How are we going to get a Japanese guy?
I liked it the second time around, too.
Tremendous. I'll use it today on the show.
Gary says, why did teams go into this fourth quarter prevent defense after playing pretty good for 3 quarters? Almost bit them in the end. Yeah, they went too soft too early.
Yeah. I am not against the concept of trading yards and points for time when you have a big lead, to keep the clock moving. But the key is to know when to start doing it. And Dick LeBeau, when he was the coordinator, was a master of knowing exactly when.
The big thing about that, Mark, is I think they went as soft as they did as early as they did because they knew they could run and run effectively. Like, it wasn't one of these typical things where you're just trying to run as many seconds off the clock.
Oh, you mean when they get the ball back?
Yeah, exactly. And
they knew they could take time off via the run. How weird was it that the running backs scored 3 touchdowns at exactly 45 yards?
Yeah. That was crazy. And what a play by Gainwell, too. That was an unbelievable catch.
I bet that, Tim. I parlayed that. I now own a mansion in Monaco.
Have you seen Murder in Monaco on Netflix yet?
No.
Okay. That might be one to check out.
I'm not even sure why I said Monaco. I'd rather have a mansion on Conneaut Lake.
This one comes from John Gunning. He says, congrats to 87 for passing Mario. Thoughts of the sale depends the Hoffman family. Mark, do you know if the sale will have an impact on Sportsnet?
I would think it has to have an impact on Sportsnet because Fenway owns Sportsnet. But I don't think that's
Pirates too.
I don't think that's that consequential. Those games are going to be on TV somewhere.
They'll figure out how to do it. I don't know what agreement Fenway has with the Pirates to get their games on the air, keep their games on the air. I really don't know. I don't know how that's going to work in the future. But the Hoffman Group, to me, it's funny, Mark, like when I first heard the sale went through, the first thing that went through my mind is, Fenway must have come down in price from the $1.2 billion we were hearing. It went up to 1.7. I mean, I thought that the Hoffman Group was going to be over leveraged and worried about liquidity at 1.2. Have you heard yet how they got up to that number?
They didn't borrow it from me.
I don't think they borrowed it from Mario either.
Yeah, no, I don't know. And that's one thing that does worry me. It worries me that they're rookie sports owners. But I want to give them the benefit of the doubt. If they spent $1.7 billion, they're clearly committed. But like I keep saying, we didn't know Bob Nutting was going to be Bob Nutting until it was too late to keep him from being Bob Nutting.
This guy, Rusty, to our point about the playoffs, says Jags only need to beat Indy or Tennessee to put the AFC North to the 4 seed. That's true, but wait, is one of those games on Saturday? Because we were talking about the Steelers taking the field.
Oh, no, I know it's a long shot for the Steelers to get the 3 seed, but I don't even think that's the issue. I think the issue is avoiding Buffalo.
Yeah,
I think if they played Buffalo 10 times, Buffalo would win 9.
And by the way, the Thursday games for Christmas, only one of them influences the AFC picture at all potentially, and that's Denver.
Because there games on Christmas?
There's 3 games on Christmas, yeah.
Well, the NFL has no respect for anything. I know they did it in the past, but it sickens me every time.
Yeah, and then I think 4 of the 6 teams are
Actually,
eliminated.
Want to hear how I contradict myself, Tim?
Go ahead.
And I do often. I think it's not sacrilegious because I really don't have strong belief, but I think it's disrespectful to have games on Christmas. But I hate when the players whine about it.
When they're making so much money off of it, you mean?
Exactamundo.
Yeah, if you wanted to whine about it, then go to your union and say, take it off the table for the next CBA, which they'll never do because a lot of the revenue
Let's face it, Tim, most football players are just dopes. I mean, you say to them, oh, you have CTE, your bodies are racked up after careers, you can't walk normally, your lives get shortened, but we'll give you an extra game check if you go to 18 games, and they'll say yes.
This one comes from Michael. I'm going to the bottom here. This one just came in. Lack of coaching fundamentals almost struck again. Washington grabs that big first down and then heads out of bounds. If he stays inbounds in their 40 seconds, potentially they could run off the clock. Why does this seem like a recurring theme over and over? And when does Washington stop being referred to as a young player? He's in his 3rd season. Well, I'm not so much worried about that. I mean, I think Washington is always...
I prefer to refer to him as fatso. And I can't believe he plays as much as he does. He's a gimmick. He's a novelty. He's a tackle. I mean, yesterday the running game worked, but how often does the running game not work when they use him in the jumbo package? I think him getting more snaps in a bigger role than Pat Freiermuth is criminal mismanagement.
Let's get to one more from Johnny Knoxville, who says, I laughed out loud.
You think it's the real Johnny Knoxville?
I do. I laughed out loud when Boswell missed the field goal. Imagine, where did he go here? Well, Detroit has the same record as the Steelers, so we wouldn't be so shocked if this game went to the wire. Well, we talked about this going in. Does
he think Boswell missed on purpose to heighten the suspense?
Yeah, it's great. That's how good.
Intentionally doinked the 37-yard chip shot off the upright.
Mark, that's how good he is. Yeah, on a bad snap, he managed to kick it right off the upright.
Oh, that's a good point. At the end of soccer practice, with big-time clubs,
yeah,
the stars will sit out there and intentionally hit the bar 5 times in a row from 35 yards.
Well, hockey players do that too, right? To try to go bar down, right?
Yeah.
So you'll see that. I don't think Boswell's that good, and clearly he was trying to ice that away. And actually, if he kicks that field goal, then that sort of speaks to Tomlin's strategy about swapping out yards for time.
Well, if he kicks the field goal, they would have been ahead by 8. If they don't get the safety, they would have been the Lions could have tied the game with the field goal. If the Lions convert, the goal line stuff, they win probably going away. It was just a nutty freaking game.
Yeah, by the way, the 2 OPI calls that they're complaining about in Detroit, there were 2 OPI calls against the Steelers, too, one of which
there were OPI calls all over the league yesterday, Tim. Somebody must have sent out a memo.
Yeah, and there is a shot of Tomlin, not of Tomlin, I take that back. You can see Tomlin in the shot. It was along the Steelers sideline into the corner where the last OPI took place, and you can see Tomlin and some other people on the bench pointing right at it. I mean, it was, if you know what you're looking for as a defensive coach or defensive player, you knew that first OPI in the end zone was a legit call.
Well, I heard that the NFL's instructional video to referees about OPI is just DK Metcalf's highlight reel.
Mark, what was the event yesterday? It was just for the Steeler viewing party, right? You didn't have a Penguin.
I stuck around for a couple periods of the Penguins. It was in celebrations in Imperial, and what a great crowd it was. And they embraced the nuttiness of the game. It was the noisiest, most raucous crowd I've had at a Steelers watch party this year. It was awesome.
I did see one question here. It was wrestling related about Cena's last match. I was more interested in Cooper DeJean rocking the John Cena finishing move in front of the entire world at Saturday game after everybody now knows he's dating Cena's ex.
That's weird. I mean, he's 22 and looks like he's 18.
And
she's 42 and looks a little older. Her body's still real good, though.
You think she looks older than 42? Really?
Yeah. I think she's in really good shape, though.
Oh, she's in tremendous shape.
Very fit, yeah. But when an age difference creeps me out, that's weird.
Mark is on today. Listen to him at 2 o'clock, and we will play back either Madden Benz.
You know what I bet Drew Nikki Bella to Cooper to Gene?
What's that?
You know what I bet Drew Nikki Bella to Cooper to Gene?
What's that?
I bet when she met him, she said, "Wait a minute, you're white." White quarterback,
and you're a
baby.
quarterback. It's a unicorn. I'm dating a unicorn.
Well, that could be useful.
Mark is on at 2 o'clock today, so listen to him on 105.9 The X at 2. Merry Christmas, everybody. We'll catch
Merry
up with you.
Christmas. Ho, ho, ho.
We'll catch up with you after the Browns game.